Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. With me today is Reef Colman. Reef, it's great to have you. Tell the people kind of what you do and why you have me on you today.
Sure. Yeah, I essentially feed people around the world. I'm the founder and CEO of WeAssist.io. I do international headhunting. So what I do is I help people find great high-level outsourced professionals around the world and place them in companies in the U.S. as they work remotely. We've done 68 roles to date, and we're expanding our portfolio of countries that we're in and also our portfolio of roles as we speak.
Wow. That's an amazing description. So, I mean, you have to have some kind of a background in either hiring or in, I guess, social skills. How did you get kind of introduced into this?
Yeah, great question. You know, it was actually from necessity. I had my own agency, and it was really hard to scale. I was struggling getting it past the $500,000 marker in ARR, annual recurring revenue. The whole model itself, however, is actually built off of education.
Oh, okay.
So most people, actually, I don't think I've ever shared this. Most people aren't aware that the central piece of WeAssist is education. Every Monday at 5 p.m. PST, we have a meeting. It's called our weekly gathering.
Oh, yeah.
We bring everybody from every company into one room, in a Zoom room. And then we play games or talk about topics like emotional intelligence, agreeing to disagree, having hard conversations, financial literacy, child development, empathy, reacting versus responding. The soft skills that most people don't learn after high school or college unless you're an entrepreneur and you challenge yourself to want to expand yourself.
Right.
But I knew that an educational platform nobody would go on because, Facebook and Instagram and X and TikTok essentially, arrest our attention. We're just there. We're prisoners to it. But I kind of got the idea that if I educate people through a payroll company, then they can be part of the ecosystem and once a week show up. And what I've done is I've actually attached their classes every Monday to the 13-month salary bonus. So the way that they get bonus at the end of the year, which in other countries is customary to have a 13-month salary bonus, I do it through education. So they have to hit their KPIs, monitoring, attendance, and then a report card from the client every month for the first year, and then every quarter after the first year. Our average client stays about 2.5 years. After that's all said and done and they qualify, the activator is that they have to show up to 75% or more of the Monday meetings. And in those Monday meetings, they get ongoing education. The whole idea there is the more you learn, the more you earn. I think for me, children in the future are very important. The youth is very important. And I think the better that we learn, the better we'll pass on to our youth and make a better next generation. So if a company like Amazon or Walmart decided to teach their people and attach it to a bonus structure, I think we'd have a very different next generation.
Absolutely.
And that's my whole reason for the company. And that all stems, if you want roots, it all stems from, my mom worked a lot, 3 jobs my entire life, never got to be around her much. So when I started the company, I made it for single mothers so they could work from home and be with their kids and still be able to make an income without having to leave their children behind. And the idea of helping other people around the world, I've witnessed a lot of abuse in my life from different parties, and that abuse of power is just something that really irks me and bothers me. So I do everything in my power to try to level the playing field for other people and give somebody an opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, giving people opportunity is a very noble thing. And it's frankly pretty hard to monetize something like that at the same time. like, hey, I want to help other people in a very impactful way, but I also need to make money so that way I can feed myself and I can also make a bigger impact. So
Well said.
I mean, you had this, huge desire from your upbringing, what you've seen in the world, and you wanted to kind of translate it into a business atmosphere. And it sounds like most of the decisions you make in your business are geared around things that you have either witnessed or experienced.
Yeah, that's very well said. I'd go back to what you just said a moment ago, and it is difficult to make impact and make profitability. that's definitely an equation that I wanted to unlock. Because I think you can make money online fairly easily, put up a coaching program, pretend like you're the grand hoo-ha of something. And next thing you know, you have 20K monthly, easy, recurring. But I think that it's a far larger challenge to do something that's impactful plus profitable, that's changing people's lives. And I've done it in every company. When I was at Jersey Mike's, I created their national marketing campaign for how they open every grand opening. I did it by pulling on schools and giving them the opportunity to do fundraising, mass population. We used to cut checks for like $1,200 for, like cancer walk associations. No offense to cancer walks, they're wonderful, but they just didn't drive the people numbers. And oftentimes we find people outside giving coupons out, when I switched it to schools, we started cutting checks for $10, $19, $38,000 because we essentially hit an entire demographic and population. Domino's Pizza did the same thing for fundraising with schools. Essentially, that's kind of always been my MO. I did youth ministry for 7 years. Poured into community there. One way or another, I've always tried to be impactful. Right now, I'm building a school in the Philippines. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of cool at 36.
Yeah. I'm you just kind of say that very nonchalantly almost.
I'm very proud of. Yeah, it's kind of all part of a process. I think when you get into a rhythm and flow, your day to day is just like, okay, do this. I got to do this. I'm doing that. I get to do this. I get to figure this out.
It's kind of hard. I can't imagine how you're setting goals in that kind of capacity, because it sounds like you have so many different projects going on at one time. And it feels like, I was talking with somebody recently about this, where goals in some capacities can be actually very limiting because you're setting a goal based on your current circumstances for a future result, when in actuality, you can pivot and change that goal as time goes on, as long as you're open to that. But people who set a goal and hang on to that goal so strictly restrict their vision from the things that are happening to them on a day by week by month basis.
Well said. Yeah, I actually, if I had a goal, my ego goal, because I do have an ego, we all do. I want to have my name on more schools than any other person on the planet. So I want to build more schools before I die than anybody else.
Where does that kind of stem from, the school aspect of it?
Education, I think, is key to success. The moment I started really expanding myself is when I started reading a book a week. I read a book a week for almost 1.5 years or so, almost 2 years, I think. And I just, every week I'd have a new book. And my stack was, I would read a book on Audible, listen to it. Then I would watch 3 YouTubes on it, like quick 15-minute, 10-minute cartoon on it, that they make infographic style. And then
to help you retain the information.
And then I would read like a Cliff Notes or Spark Notes. And that made me retain it from like 3 different mediums in 3 different formats, from different perspectives or angles of other people explaining the material. When I started getting educated is when my life really changed and expanded. So I think that we need to give our next generation the best footing possible. My personal mission statement is to make the world a better place so that future generations can have a better platform to answer some of the questions we haven't yet answered. So by doing that, I think education is a big centerpiece. For me, the biggest things on this planet are, protecting women and protecting children. Like that is, the 2 things that we should dedicate our lives to, because women create our great children, and then our great children create the next generation. Yeah. So we as men get to be that position of, how can I best serve you, and how can I best create a platform for you all to be successful?
I love that. Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of different kind of jobs and a lot of opportunities to learn skills and to learn these things that have cultivated in this business that you now have. And it sounds like this business, or I guess this company that you've created, is directly aligned with your value system, right?
Yeah, correct.
You found a way to have your values interlocked with your financial goals and your business and so forth. Was that an easy task, or was it, did it take a long time to kind of figure out exactly what your values were and how to create a business that kind of aligned with it?
Yeah. Great question. I would say that nothing in life is easy, right? I've never chosen the easy path. I tend to choose the harder path, and for it, I'm much more fruitful of a life, I think that I have had a lot of experiences, but that's because I risk more than most. I'm willing to try more than most and do more things than most, more jobs, more opportunities, say yes to more things. And that'll change over time. I'm sure at some point I'll get to the point where I have to say no to more things, that'll make me a stronger leader. But in the interim, when you're starting off, say yes to as many opportunities as possible, because that's how you figure out the path, Yeah. Was it hard to get aligned with that? I'd say that my principles, my second favorite book is Principles by Ray Dalio.
Okay.
Great read.
Yeah.
Highly recommend to anybody who hasn't. And that book, how it set up his principles for life, made me look at my life and write out my own principles for how I articulate life. I even have a list of principles for how to choose friends, principles for how to choose a woman, principles for how to date now, which is awesome, because it's like, okay, if, I used to come from a place of how can I serve this woman, and now I'm coming from a place of how is this person going to be good for me, which is a very big shift in my reality.
So it sounds like you have a very giving heart and you're constantly thinking about how you can help people. So it must be a little bit hard for you to sometimes think about yourself.
It's interesting. I get to be in this season. I get to learn to give to myself because I do give to others, and at times it's been to my own detriment. I give to others and it's sad to pour into human beings and still not be appreciated. And that's kind of left a mark on me to say, I need to do better about appreciating me and pouring into me, taking care of me so that I can better serve the world and make the world a better place, So it's almost counterintuitive.
No, if I can hit on that even more, I mean, I'm obviously in a sales space as a sales leader and I recruit and hire and train guys. And anytime you're in kind of like a hiring process, like your company is, or a training process, something where you're educating or helping someone, frankly, most of the time at the beginning, you are pouring into them way more than you're getting back from them. That's the point of the training, right? Mm-hmm. Someone from expertise is helping someone who needs that expertise. Yeah. And unfortunately, that person who's being trained at the beginning can't offer anything in return. While they're learning, they have the potential and the hope for a return in the future. And it makes it really tough. Because what safeguards do you put up maybe at your company to make sure that you're not we want to invest in everybody. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to pour into everybody and make everyone a great salesperson. But as you just said, that's counterintuitive and it can actually be detrimental. So what safeguards do you have in place to help you maybe with the selection process, making sure you're selecting somebody who is going to appreciate the training that they're getting and put in the work on their own? And who's going to follow through with the training after you're done?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting question in the sense that, you really can't tell a book by its cover, until you start working with them, which is kind of most interesting. Mm-hmm. You can get some things. For me, I really focus on a person's will, Okay. I believe in ROE, return on effort. I think most people know the ROI, return on investment. Yeah. Right. For me, I think effort and love are the two like universal powers that move things. So the effort they put in themselves, and then what about the love? Like the love that they reflect back or are willing to accept? I think love is just a powerful emotion. It's the most powerful emotion. I think in the Hebrew text they had 12 different words for the word love. Wow. Raya, achava, dod. There were different styles of love. Because we say the word "I love you," and then you turn around and you go, "I love tacos." And then you go, I love mom and dad. And are these all on the same playing field? Do you love tacos as much as you love mom and dad? Yeah. Depends how hungry you are. Yeah, exactly. If it's Taco Tuesday and if there's a deal. Yeah. And if there's tongue or lengua, those are really good tacos, or buche. So good. My Spanish side's coming out. Yeah, but, we keep going. I'm ready for tacos. Is it Tuesday yet? So I think that love being such a strong word that literally other groups of people have divided into sub-loves because it describes a different type of love, like love for mother and father, Dode is a romantic love, like a lustful love, Raya is, I think a committed love, or Achava is a committed love, Raya is a friendship love, Wow. So you have these different types of I love yous in other cultures, and we have just I love you. Yeah. But it doesn't take away from the power of the actual word. I think that love is what motivates people to do a lot of great things, you know, love for themselves, love for power, love for money, love for family, love for relationship, love for wife.
Yeah.
These things, love is a very powerful force that drives the universe in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think the effort side is how much are you willing to put in the effort? I will, if someone's putting in genuine effort, I will continuously back them up, because I know that it's not about if they get it, but when they're going to get it, you know, because they're putting in that effort, as opposed to someone who's just like, I don't care, or disappears, or like, you know, doesn't ever come back to the job. You know, that person didn't have what it took to be resilient enough to make it long term, you know.
And you can see that really quick. Actually, one thing that I say to my guys all the time, I say, hey, listen, I will always invest into you the same amount that you're willing to invest into yourself. Because frankly, if I can see that you're putting in the work off the doors, what we say, outside of the job, then I will see it in your actions when you come to this job. When you show up, I will know if you're putting in the time outside of me and you being together. And if I can see that and I can feel that, then I will continually pour into you the knowledge that you need. And so that's something that I've learned. And I guess that's just kind of an instinct that I've learned. But now that you're saying, the effort and also the love, it's I guess love and respect are usually kind of intertwined in that aspect. And so I guess respect is the kind of thing. And I don't mean respect from like a dominant kind of point of view. It's like, hey, respect yourself and respect me. Respect this relationship. And that's what's going to propel us forward.
I mean, I'm learning that right now. You know, I tend to be a person and I'm trying to analyze it for business as well. In relationship, I tend to be the type of person that definitely does not respect my own boundaries. I bend a lot for other people, but in business, I've learned to kind of pendulum swing to the other side, where I'm like, it's like this, you know, I set very clear boundaries, you know? So it's interesting how in one area of life, we can have such a strong sense of knowing self and will, and other areas of life where similar rules can apply. You're just kind of like, you know?
Absolutely. I feel like anyone who is like a boss at work and then goes home to like their marriage can probably relate with that a little bit. Like that's actually with me too. It's like, it's a very different relationship I have with my employees than with my wife. And they're both kind of equal, like a partnership aspect, but obviously extremely different.
You have to treat them very differently, you know? And I've treated relationships like business for a long time, you know? So I'm making that shift as well.
Learning to pivot.
Correct. I'm pivoting in love. Exactly.
Love,
you know? I'm pivoting in relationship, but being part of the sales world, you know, like you said, you are, you know, sales are incredibly important. You know, I think in even like relationship or love, you're selling yourself to another person, you know. In business, you're selling yourself constantly, you know. In meetings, you're selling yourself constantly, you know. You are really selling yourself at every corner. When you meet somebody new or an opportunity or whatever to have you, you're putting yourself in that position. So sales, I would say, is a core competency to understand if you're going to be an entrepreneur or if you're going to launch something or find somebody with a strong competency in sales, because the lifeblood of any company is money. And if you don't have that blood, the company dies, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's very important.
From your experience with getting your company up and going, you know, entrepreneurs at the beginning of their companies, they always wear 1,000 hats.
Sure.
Right? You're taking on all the roles that you possibly can. I guess, you know, from your company or from your idea of starting this company, how quickly were you able to like grow it? Then how fast did you have to find other people to bring in as partners or as employees?
Yeah, great question. You know, I would say that there's 4 company stages that are pretty well known. You know, the 1 to 8 players is like the family size. The $1 to $10 million run rate is a village size. The 5 to 50 million is the town size, and then the 100 million plus becomes a cityscape. What differentiates these family, village, town, and city are, in a village is very tight knit. You know, everybody, right? But there's a leader now. You know, in a family, you're even tighter knit. You know, there's a father, mother, but everyone's very much enmeshed in one another. You know. At the town size, well, now you have a city council. You know, you've started with a city council. There's, you know, 2 or 3 tiers of management. Things are happening, you know. People have to check in with certain people in order for things to happen. And then at a cityscape, you know, it's rare for the mayor to meet the janitor. You know, it's harder at that stage because you're like, you know, so far removed from everything.
Yeah.
So at different stages in companies, you need to call upon different powers of self, right? Or different strategies.
I like that. Powers of self.
Yeah. You know, you get to, I believe that every day you wake up and you choose your avatar. You know, who do I get to be today? You know, today I get to be Reef, you know, and how does Reef want to show up today? Grounded, oak tree, you know, just calm, cool, collected, having a good life, you know. So you get to choose whatever avatar you want to be for the day. So when you hit certain milestones in your company, you have to choose the avatar that's going to show up at that point. And at a small size, you know, you really do have to do a lot of the things yourself to start. It's very important to understand a lot of the facets of your company. What I would recommend to entrepreneurs that are starting off is get yourself to a place where you have MVP, right? Minimum viable product. Once you get yourself there and you're starting to see cash flow, get yourself to the place where you can hire your first executive assistant, right? Offshore. This is the way I did it. You hire your first offshore executive assistant, someone that is, and pay well to get this done. Like you buy nice or buy twice, you know? A players are like pretty girls at the bar. They have options to go anywhere. So you want to make sure you take really good care of them, you know? So with that, once you have enough to bring in an executive assistant, they can start taking care of a lot of your admin. A great book to read here is Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. How do you buy back time in the facets of your company and start offloading minutia so you can focus on those zones of genius or the money-making opportunities or the marketing to bring in more revenue? Once you get to a certain size, that first player essentially learns incredibly well how the business runs. You help them do billing, they help you with email, they help you be on meetings, taking notes, follow-up, etc. Once you get to a certain size, you can then split that person, you know, and that person will literally create the next role because you'll get to a certain point where you see, okay, a great thing to do is a time audit. So you, every quarter to every 6 months, audit your calendar and see every 15 minutes, write down what you're doing, you know, with that time audit for a week's worth time, 5 days to get good data. And then from there, look at all the things that you're doing on that timesheet and say, how many of these things can I offload? If you do it for you and your executive assistant, you're going to find areas that are overlapping where there might be a lot of one thing. One thing could be, for example, client success or customer, you know, questions. If that happens to be the case, hire a part-time customer service rep, you know, that, or a community manager that handles most of that. Or maybe your admin executive assistant becomes your executive admin assistant, like mine did, the internal process and systems.
Right.
And then I got an executive sales assistant who's everything external. That's who you've been communicating with, Kate, you know, who's awesome. She handles everything. Even on the weekend, she'll show up, you know. So that's usually a pretty good process for starting to scale your business as an early entrepreneur. Get yourself to a place where you can afford your first offshore professional, bring them into play, teach them all your systems and processes, create a really strong relationship and friendship with them, go to war together, increase their salary as you win, they win, everybody's winning. And then when time comes, you'll split that person and then it'll continue kind of this like osmosis, you know, thing that'll happen where next person splits.
I love that. Well, that time audit is very interesting. I don't think I've heard that before. Do you, when you're doing that review of the calendar for that week, do you also look at, okay, where are we not following the calendar, or where are we like making deviations from the calendar or spending, we said we were going to do this, but we actually did this. Does that ever happen? Or you just, during that week, do you need to just stick to your calendar no matter what?
Great question. It's data, right? There's no right or wrong answer. It's more just like you're observing how you spend every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, not even by the calendar's time, you just have a spreadsheet and you get your EA to do it. You know, your EA could be on a Google Hangout in the background. Executive assistant. There you go. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. I apologize. These
you got to learn a lot of acronyms.
Acronyms are dangerous, you know.
You get your executive assistant to do it.
You get your executive assistant to sit on Google Hangout, and they can every 15 minutes essentially track what has been done, what you're doing, and they can watch you, you know, email. And this 15-minute block was email, sent 2 text messages, checked email again, and got a ping, you know, or the next 15 minutes, you know, went on Instagram and scrolled for 30 or 45 minutes, you know. You just have to be really honest with yourself and authentic of how you show up, you know, and the things that you do. And once you have that data, you can then go back and start chopping off the fat. You know, a simple equation is what doesn't need you.
Wow.
Simple, right? Yeah. If it doesn't need you, don't do it. Find someone else to do it.
Don't need you present. Don't need your input.
Yeah. Google says that we spend 60 to 70% of our time in email, admin, and calendar. If that happens to be true, if you're a $200,000 a year earner, then you're spending $120,000 to $140,000 of your time in calendar, email, and admin. Seems a little silly when you break it down like that, right? You're like, oh, that's a horrible misuse of $140,000. I could do a lot more with that, you know?
Exactly.
So when you break it down like that, you can offset that by hiring a $20,000 a year team member or $30,000 a year team member that can handle all that minutia for you and start taking off a bunch of those things from your plate. Some of the most, novel like time vampires that there are definitely like email. That'll suck you up. Following up with people, having to remember who to send what to in documentation. And my EA is on every single one of my calls, and I ask her, hey, can you do this? Can you send that out? That after I jump off the call, I'm on to my next call. And fresh, my mind is, I'm not thinking, oh, did that get done? Do I have to do that? It's my mental real estate is free.
Nice.
Which is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
I have a buddy, Voltaic is, I won't say a competitor name for the door knocking space, but
no, go ahead. It's okay.
Good people. Yeah. The way that they utilize executive assistants is they get executive sales assistants. So the executive sales assistant will actually be with a door knocker, setting up the route, helping them see their, in the pocket on Zoom so they can hear the whole conversation, recording on Fathom what the conversation is. And they have a pretty slick system of putting the information into a CRM, following up, and getting a hold of the person. And what's brilliant about this is, the EAs or the ESAs, executive sales assistants, usually last longer than the sales reps. So what ends up happening is once a sales rep is gone, the pipeline's dead. Right?
Usually,
when you have an executive sales assistant, the pipeline lives evergreen, and you just replace a sales rep, and the executive sales assistant has the experience and the knowledge to keep that going.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's good
because I feel like a lot of people know the idea of calculate your net worth and then kind of divide it out by how many hours you work, and then figure out like what is your time worth. I mean, that's a really important thing to do. But going one step further, it's like, okay, once you know what your time is worth, what's the next step after that? And it sounds like kind of what you're saying. It's like, hey, calculate where you're spending your time, where you can trim the fat and buy back your time. And then eventually you can buy back more time by giving it to other people. And so I guess the thing that maybe can be hard from that process is knowing when it's a good time to get an executive assistant, or knowing when it's a good time to move on from a project that maybe isn't serving you anymore, or is costing too much time.
I'd say the executive assistant one. I'll answer the former first. A good time to get an executive assistant is as soon as you can afford to have an executive assistant. Period. You know, because you need hands. Your output is doubled with an executive assistant. One brain, four hands. Instead of one brain, two hands. You're always going to outpace with four hands over two hands. Yeah. Especially for very competent hands. 6 hands, one brain. Now we're cooking with gas. I think Russell Brunson has 9 EAs.
Wow.
So he has a team. They meet up in the morning. The head EA talks to him, tells him what's going on. She goes in and disseminates the information to everybody else.
That makes sense.
So that's how players at a big level do it. Like, why not start practicing what they're doing?
Yeah. Fast, do you think it would be an interesting practice? Like, hey, I guess maybe people would be worried that they would hire an executive assistant and then not be able to fill their time. But I feel like that'd be a good problem to have. Is like, hey, well, now you got to figure out ways to fill their time.
Yeah. Right? If you don't have enough if you don't have enough on your plate to fulfill an executive assistant's time, then either A, you're not working hard enough, or B, you haven't learned to delegate well enough. Period. Like if you're a business owner and you have time on your hands, I don't know what you're doing. You know, it's interesting. Show me your model. I'd love to. Can I buy a franchise? I would love to. I would love to own one of these. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
How to do this? You know,
Yeah.
I think to the other question of when do you know to let go of a project? That's a hard one for me because I'm someone that just keeps pushing until I figure it out. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that. You know, I tend to. My first agency, I probably should have let it go at year 1 or 2, and I stuck in it for 4.5 years. You know, this company now, I'm in it 5 years, and it's working and it's scaling and it's growing, which is phenomenal. You know, this month alone we've had 48% growth. You know,
Wow.
Yeah, those great numbers. I mean, we're having 200 and something percent growth from last year, 283.
Nice.
I think.
Well, you're in the
growth.
exponential growth phase of your business.
They say double, triple, you know, and I've done 2 years back to back of doubling the business, more than like 150, 130% growth and 150% growth. And now I'm getting into that 200, 300% growth, which will be immense. And then hopefully next year, the same thing again, you know? So I think that, for someone to ask, like, what's the right time to get out of something when you're just not passionate about it anymore, I think is a pretty good answer. Because for me, I wake up excited to do what I do. I get to feed people around the world, and then I get to serve them, and I get to teach them, and I through my works and my hands, I have a lot of peace on my heart, knowing that I might be feeding the family of the next Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or the person that'll cure AIDS or cancer, or create something beautiful and wonderful. We never know what our impact is going to do on the planet, the Chinese farmer, maybe. Everything is just maybe in the now. We are living in the now and the present. We don't know what the implications are for the future, or what we'll do, or what ripples we'll create, what the ripple effect will be. All we can do is try to show up at our very best today, and in doing so, hope that it creates something more beautiful in the future.
I love that. Well, I kind of told you before we started that when I first went to your Instagram page and I was going through your content, I was just impressed with your energy and kind of like the great, I don't want to say vibes, but your great positivity that you're putting out. But whenever you talk about your business, you talk about it in such a like a humble and reverent way, in a way.
Thank you.
And it actually made me believe, before I knew, I thought that it was like a nonprofit. You talk about it in the way that some people talk about, like charities. But of course, it's important to have a business structure that is making money. And we kind of talked a little about that. If you can talk more about it. Yeah,
we have an impact enterprise. It's difficult to make money and impact. It's not easy. That's why there's so many nonprofits, I'm under the school of thought that capitalism is beautiful, but it's like alcohol, everything in moderation, You can drink a lot or you can drink a little bit. You can have a bigger bar, have as big as bar as you want, because, a capitalistic society, if you want to have a big bar and invite friends over, go for it. But at a certain point, I think we're called to create and do more with our money and give it out, right? So in moderation, don't drink excessively, don't collect money excessively, and allow the money to then do works, because then what good is it, right? But it is an impact enterprise, and it is a mission and vision. For us, it's to feed as many people around the world as humanly possible through equally advantageous opportunity. So it's not just placement or business, it's changing people's lives, because of them coming to our door and them going through our very rigorous interview process. It's very long. They are now able to impact the future of their entire generations. And then with that, the exchange is they also impact someone's life domestically, because they get an output of someone that actually cares. Here in the US, $10 an hour, you're lucky if the person shows up to work. They're like, it's gas money. Offshore, you're feeding an entire family. It's a household income, and they want to work for you for the next 2, 5, or 10 years, and they care about the business like it's your business. I think it'd be very different in the US. I'd be willing to pay $100,000 a year if I got someone that just wanted effort and cared and was committed and knew how to stay long term, and be like, I'm going to be here, ride or die with you. But we've become a very transactional community or culture. What's next? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? People can't focus on the beauty of now, where in other countries, the simplistic way of living, you tend to have people that just are more grateful for the little things. I come from another country, so I'm incredibly grateful for life.
Yeah.
I wake up and I'm like, well, even in this moment, I'm like, how cool. I got cameras here. I got an awesome dude interviewing me. I have a fake palm tree here to the right of me, like some wicker things, a wood panel thing behind me. Like if 18-year-old Reef would see me now, mind blown, he'd be like, buddy,
from South America,
good on you. Like what the background that I've had with, drug addicted father, abusive parents, mom working all the time and not being able to care for me, the background that I've had should by all means make me a statistic. I've pushed past all numbers. I should be in jail or dead or a heroin addict or whatever, what have you. Yeah. And rather than be that, I've risen to the occasion, and I keep doing that. And I find great gratitude in it. Like I'm literally on a podcast right now. What a gift to society,
Well, it's amazing too, because when you show gratitude, it instills people in others for them to show gratitude as well.
It prompts for sure.
Absolutely. And so I guess, so much of what you do stems from this, idea of kind of giving back, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you were able to fight I don't want to say fight, but yeah, I guess fight. I'm sure at times it was a fight to get to where you are now.
I'm fighting now.
And fighting now, still fighting.
Every day.
And so the cool thing is that what I think is important about your business is you're not giving anything away. These people, you're giving them an opportunity to fight. You're not giving them all the answers or anything like that.
Correct.
And so I love that you're giving an equal opportunity like that.
Yeah. I'm fighting even that, I'm going to a retreat for the next month in Idaho, to better my brain and better my thought processes and everything else. And I'm very, very fortunate to be in that space, so it's constantly a battle, but I also choose it. I've chosen this life of constantly battling and fighting, because I want more for myself. And I know that hardship brings success, challenges bring a lot of good. It strengthens you, in as an athlete, the pain chamber is very common, cycling, running, endurance sports, you get in the pain chamber, it's a temporary time, but as you're doing it, you're going to get on the other side better for it, so you choose to be in the pain chamber. The longer you can endure the pain chamber, the more, fortified you are as a human. So I enjoy that aspect. On the portion of, doing impact and making it equally advantageous and pouring into people and giving them opportunity, I've done a lot of ministry, a lot of work feeding people, homeless, going out, handing things to people, clothing, food, you name it, serving other underprivileged communities, which I love doing. I even do it for fun now on weekends when I have the opportunity. Yeah, this weekend I'm going to go buy 100 Subway sandwiches and drive around and give them out to people just for fun, kicks and giggles,
Oh, wow.
So I kind of get a kick out of stuff like that,
Yeah. What is it, just the reactions that you get that is so like, that brings, I don't want to say entertainment, but joy? Or is it just
it's kind of like
the notion?
You ever get an unexpected surprise?
Yeah, sometimes.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe your wife comes up behind you and gives you like a special I love you, which you haven't felt in a while. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
I think that as humans, we like novelty and we like that change up. So if you can be that hand to change someone else's day and make it just that much brighter, then why not do it if we have the opportunity? Yeah. A simple compliment, a simple, hey, you look good. I like those pants, cool shoes,
Yeah.
You know what I like about you? I like your character. I like the way that you are. I like the type of human being that you are. I like your energy, These things are very beautiful that people don't hear enough, and it's nice to be able to express that to other people. I think that makes the world a much brighter place. I heard that the brain thinks 80% negative and 20% positive. If that happens to be true, that's why we have such negative self-beliefs and self-talk for the most part. If that happens to be true and that holds to be true, then we really need to focus on a concerted effort to be more positive, because our brain already naturally is a little bit more on the negative side. So that's my personal stance on that, right?
You need to put a conscious effort towards that 20%. Even if you can change that 20% to 25%,
correct,
how much happier you're going to be. It's compounding. It's going to be growing. Well, I really like how you mentioned that you're still in the fight and everything. I mean, I'll be honest, when I first heard your business model, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, that's amazing. You're giving opportunities to people that really need it.
Yeah.
The second thing that came to my mind was, I bet there's not a lot of people that agree with that business model. And so I guess, not to give praise to haters or anything like that, but what kind of challenges have you gone through with people who don't like the idea of outsourcing or caring about people outside of America, so to speak?
Yeah, the interesting part of opportunity is, back to the ministry thing is, I don't believe in giving things out for free. I think that the best thing a person can do is earn. So if you put something in front of somebody and they earn it, then they have more value behind it. They get to have more care for that thing. Where most people, they don't. If you just hand them something, they're kind of like, "Oh, I got it, yay!" And there's not really a story to it. There's no triumph to it, that we are communal creatures of communication, and we tell our own stories about our own life and our own self. It's rare that you go to somebody and you're like, man, you have no idea the sandwich I just got for free, but they will tell you a story about how they fought uphill both ways in the snow to be able to go get a nickel to be able to come back and then buy whatever. The stories of victory is what we should prompt people to have. Is here's an opportunity for you to become victorious. Here are the tools, here's the platform, now you put in the work, and in doing so you cultivate a better next generation. So that's my whole stance on that, on the opportunity thing that you were mentioning earlier. I have such blinders. I just don't see the haters, like there's, I'm just such a person that's in my lane and so positive that I don't pay. I think an important principle for me is being okay with being misunderstood. I'm very often misunderstood for the type of human that I am, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. Sometimes, to a group of people out there, I'm one of the most wonderful, angelic humans that you've ever met. And they're like, man, you're such a godsend, To another demographic of people, I am a horrendous walking, representation, amalgamation of what a man is, which one is true? Somewhere in the middle. They're probably all right, from their perspective. But I can't worry myself about the thoughts of other people. I have to just keep trucking and doing what I know is true to my heart and continue building. I know what I'm doing. I'm feeding families around the world.
Absolutely.
That most of the people that are, hating are in the grandstands.
Yeah.
And I'm on the racetrack. I'm actually running the race. I would never ask the guy in 37B up in the nosebleeds how to make a left-hand turn in a Formula One car at turn 2, in Monaco. It'd be like, why ask that guy? That guy would be like, oh, turn left. I'd be like, sick. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for your. I gave you a shot and you blew it.
Wait for your insights. No, you ask the other people on the paddock. You ask the other people that are racing alongside of you. You ask them like, hey, what did you do there? What's your entry point? What's your apex? How are you hitting this corner? They're going to give you data that's much closer to your truth and what you need to do and where you need to go. Right? Especially people that have driven longer than you. Those are great places for insight. The rest, have your talk. Talk is talk. Talk doesn't do anything for me.
Well, it goes back to the idea is like, I think it was Apple or somebody that made this example where if you're making a product, right? Yeah. And you were to ask, hundreds of different people what that product should look like, what it should smell like, what it should be like.
Sure.
You're going to come out with a product that doesn't serve any single one person. Right. Whereas if you have an idea of what the product can do and you have a great idea and knowledge that can help a certain group of people, and you create that product and you do a good job of making sure it's quality, and then you bring it to the masses, well, then at least you're going to have a good group of people who identify with that product and they love the product. And then it's going to spread as more people understand it and they come to recognize it for what it is. But if you just try to please the masses, then you're going to just come up with products or services that doesn't really help anybody specific.
A character is being who you are, regardless of the face of who's in front of you, and I've come to learn and have a big heart for character, people that people please or, ask everybody for insight and then live off of that don't have character truly, because they don't have a truth centered to them. They are with the wind. If someone says this, I'm this. Someone says that, I'm that, because they have that need from their own experiences to need to find safety in making sure that the herd is good, the tribe is good. When that happens to be so, I kind of look at that person like, oof, I don't know when you're being honest or when you're not being honest. Who are you truly, So I think character is first and foremost, right? Understanding your character, who you are, and what you stand in, as a truth. I think that truly creates like a very strong business owner or very strong human, male, female, whatever, you know. What was the second part of the question? I apologize.
No, I think that was just,
past the haters. You said something else. It was,
I think the haters was the last question I made. And then we just kind of talked a lot about the, not listening to the haters at all. But I do have a question more about the character. So as you're looking at hiring people, right?
Sure.
And as you're maybe even looking at, I guess you hire people to your company, but you also hire people, your company is hiring other people.
Yeah,
so you have a really good insight into both of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the things, maybe call them values, but what are some of the things that you look for that help people stand out from others? I'm guessing character is one thing that you look into.
Yeah, and I actually just remembered what we were talking about, right? It was like answering all the things and pleasing all the things for a product.
Right.
I will dive into this for a moment, and if we can pin that, you know, the way I did it is by asking questions. I think communication is the key thing to survival. You know, great people communicate under any circumstance. They just find a way to have a conversation. So question asking is one of the superpowers, you know, and then you go down to first principles. What I did is I went ahead and asked all the questions of what people hated about the offshoring world. And I asked outsourced professionals what they hated about working in the offshore world or agency or whatever, what have you. And they gave me data points. You know, I got about 36 or so odd data points for clients. And then I got about 18 or so odd data points for outsourced professionals. That's when you go back to first principles. I got obviously a lot more than that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot more, but I distilled them kind of into 36 categories, you know?
Oh, okay.
And in doing so, now you go down to like the bare minimum, cut off the fat. What are the solutions that people are wanting that you can add value to them and why, right?
Yeah.
If you can attribute a value to each one of these things, then you should try to find a solution for that. So the way I created We Assist, out of 190 competitors, there's not a single one that's doing what we're doing. We have a very unique USP, unique selling proposition, and model. The reason why that came to be is because I think I went about it differently from most people. I went and asked humanity, what matters to you in this process and why? And in doing so, I then created a solution for both sides of the table and then just bridged the gap and made it a reality for people to be able to work together.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, looking at it from both sides, I feel like a lot of people would always focus on the business side. Hey, what are you business looking for in your outsourcing employees?
Yeah.
But going to actually employees and saying, hey, what's been the problem with the businesses? That's something that I don't think I would have thought of. That's really
Thank
cool.
you. I appreciate you for saying that. For me, you know, I think to myself, how do you find the highest level potential possible? You know, you got to remember your business is a marketing engine for great potential. You know, they're looking at your business as, why should I work here? You know, A players are looking why they should work somewhere. They're not just like, give me a job.
Yeah.
You know, they're really about, you know, where should I invest my time and energy and life force? So you have to work really diligently on creating a very strong ecosystem, a marketing tool of this is a place to work and why. It's awesome. Let me show you. I did that because one of the biggest problems clients had was not being able to find good outsourced talent. And I thought, well, to find good outsourced talent, what does good outsourced talent want? Boom, next question asking, you know, like literally one question begets the next, you know, like, and then you're able to find out all the solutions or all the problems that the other demographic has. And then you're able to bridge that. And by giving them that, now we have, you know, I get DMs constantly of, Reef, I want to work in your company. Hey, sir, like, can you hire me? So on and so forth. So I get a lot of that in my DMs and LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, because the relationship of We Assist, or the reputation of We Assist is growing in such a way that people are like, that's the place to work for. If you get a job there, you're lucky, you know?
Yeah, you start, instead of trying to go out and like pull people into you, they are naturally just coming to you. And
critical mass, baby.
Yeah,
critical
exactly.
mass. You know, you create kind of this. You attract wonderful things to you. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very much in a season of attraction right now. You know, I have like a lot of things coming towards me because I'm putting in. Earlier we talked about goals, right? My only goal every day is to do that day. Like I don't think 15, you know, 20 days ahead of me. You know, I have it planned out, obviously, but in that day, it is, what am I doing? I'm doing to the gym. I'm getting up at 4 a.m. I'm working out for 2 hours. I'm doing my breath work. I'm doing my meditation. I'm doing my Mendy brain training, right? I sit down and I read. I pour into my brain. I shower. I get ready for my first meeting. I handle my first meeting. I take a break for lunch. I eat some raw salmon or chicken. I go for a quick mile run or 2 mile run if I can fit it.
Yeah.
Come back, sit down, work and grind. In the evening, go do something to expand my brain. I either learn something online or read, or I go dance, or I go learn piano, or I go play soccer, or I go for a hike. Something to take me out of like the flow of the minutia of the day to explore the world, right? Because then the time just kind of disappears. It's the most precious commodity we have is, or resource we have is time. Everything else is kind of a joke. So I try to really be intentional about my time, my daily goals, daily, not long term. By hitting my everyday goal, I will achieve my long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's just every once in a while, you just kind of do like I want to say like a check-in with the long-term goal and see if you're still on that trajectory, or and see if like, hey, is that still the long-term goal, or do we need to pivot and change that goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think long-term goals are kind of like a marker, like a flag. You can kind of aim towards it, but because of the day-to-day process that you're going through, that goal may change. You know, you might be going through a day-to-day process where you're like, I thought this was the most important thing. Turns out it's actually this. I was close, and if I wouldn't have started that, I wouldn't be, in this position. But you end up finding the trajectory of how to get to that next point by just following that day-to-day process. Because then what happens also, you get goal blinders, where you're looking at a goal and you can't see other problems or other solutions because you're so focused on that goal. Where if you kind of release the attachment to that goal and you say, this would be nice, this would be pretty cool, but also, what other opportunities does the universe have for me? As you're taking that day-to-day step, the right opportunities will put themselves in front of you. Like, I'm a strong believer now in the right people, the right opportunities, the right projects will literally be put right in front of you because they were meant for you, and they will do everything in their power to be around your energy and who you are. Anything that doesn't facilitate that, then is not in alignment with you, right? Because it's not choosing you, and then you can't choose it. So it's good to be able to say, okay, that's detached, that long term is detachable, but the now, today, I get to put in my work every single day, and then that'll get me closer to my potential long term goal.
I love that. I love that idea, and it's crazy too, because the more entrepreneurs that I have in here and we talk about it have the same mindset about goals. Whereas I come from an industry where with sales, goals is everything. Goals is lifeblood of the entire everything. And I feel like a lot of businesses revolve just around their goals and their metrics and what they have to hit and so forth. And they lose sight of, maybe why they started the company. That's obviously not a problem that you're ever going to have. I can tell.
I hope not. I work really hard on keeping myself humble and sober, in a lot of ways. What I really try to focus on is, staying true to who I am and my character. I think what money does is really accentuates the person that you are and the human that you are. A bad person with a lot of money will do a lot of bad things. A good person with a lot of money will do a lot of good things. So I think it's just an accentuator to your character and who you are. Like, I'm going to be going down to Nicaragua for a quarter. I can't wait. I'm going to pour into my kids down there. I got 20 young youths that are kids that are awesome. One just hit me up. He's having trouble with his grandma, so I'm going to send him some cash right now just to say, hey, here you go, to give a hand, because not everyone could provide for themselves. But here you are. Here's something that'll levy some of the pain. It won't take it all away. And trust me, it's not everything. But here's something to at least calm some of that pain. And I'll go hang out with those 20 kids for a quarter. I'll go surfing. I'll go hang out. I'm going to take them ziplining, catamaraning, just a bunch of cool stuff to do with them,
It'll change their life. It's something that's great and fulfilling for you, but it's something that's life altering for them.
Oh, it's life altering for me, buddy. Yeah. There's an equal exchange of giving when you give. A person gives to me more than I could ever give to them through my actions, just because they're appreciative or they love it or it's helping them. Knowing that I'm a part of their success story or part of their process is a very special thing. I hope to keep myself aligned. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I will keep myself aligned in everything that I'm doing. I'll continue to be the type of person that creates for a better tomorrow, and I won't compromise of that about myself, no matter the amount of money that gets thrown at me or what. Look, this is what I'm trying to do. this is what I'm trying to achieve. And I'd rather achieve that than sell my soul to the other side, you know, and say, hey, I made X amount of dollars and I exited this thing, when really it wasn't about the exit or the money amount. It was how many families we're trying to feed. And if I believe myself to be the right steward for that, you know. Absolutely. I think most people give themselves the opportunity of a back door to slip out and make an excuse to make a play, you know, on money. I choose not. I'm just like, you know what? Money comes and goes. People are here. People matter. People are important. I'm a speciesist. I love the sapient species. You know, I love us as humans. You know,
your videos. Was it Good Morning?
Hey there, beautiful sapiens.
Beautiful sapiens.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know, because in today's demographic, if you say boy or girl, someone gets offended. If you say beautiful anything, someone gets offended. And I'm just not about that community. You know, before getting canceled or being told at Reef, you know, you can't do certain things. Someone trying to limit my speech, which I am not a fan of, you know. I think we should have freedom of speech. I'd rather be someone that just calls us by what we are. We're all sapiens, and you cannot deny that you're sapient. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, male, female, transsexual, non-transsexual, you know, binary, non-binary, whatever, the LGBTQRS, TUV of acronyms, right? That is very long now. You know, you essentially are a sapient at the end of the day. What you choose to do with your sapienthood, good on you. You know, enjoy it.
Exactly.
But we
need diversity, right? We need diversity in the world, which is always good.
We need it.
We need it. Yeah. No,
I love it. I live for it. You know, I think that it's the differences in people are what make the world so beautiful, you know. Like that's why I go to different countries. I love the cultures, I love people, I love hearing. Absolutely. I love asking them questions, even if I think they're back crazy left, you know. Like if I'm like, whoa, that's a crazy concept, I'm like, tell me more. You know, I'm curious, you know.
Well, it's funny, I moved to Texas 2 years ago, and
what part?
I never thought North Fort Worth.
Oh, okay. You're a nice area.
I, you know, got my family, my kids. I wanted to make sure I'm in an area that
is conservative, good ideals, good.
Well, frankly, the biggest thing I was going to say is that I never thought I'd use the word y'all as much as I am in my entire life, but you can't have a better word to coin just a group of people or anyone you're talking to without any discrimination.
It's a real iconic word, y'all. Well, it's easy.
It's funny, but Texans, for how conservative they are, they use the word y'all, and they're so inclusive when they do that.
Just a brushstroke. Get everybody in there, y'all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to start adopting it. I'm just going to say y'all to people. Hey, y'all, come here.
You'll get a smile on someone's face every time you say y'all. I asked someone the other day, I was like, hey, how long does it take for me to live here until I can, you know, call myself a Texan? And I get a different answer every single time. It's my favorite question I ask Texans. And they say, one of the answers was, well, let's see, do you say y'all? I'm like, yeah. Do you like use it in text? I'm like, yeah. You're already Texan.
Nice.
Like, okay.
Nice. That's it. That's all it takes, huh?
According to that lady, I was already Texan.
I'm going to Texas, you know.
Oh, it's a great spot. Well, you obviously, this is probably going to be a really hard question, but because you have so many things on your plate at once and so many things you're looking forward to. But I guess, is there anything kind of specific that's coming up that you want to shine some attention on?
Two things, I think. One is anybody looking for outsourced professionals or trying to hire a great A player, come talk to us, you know, even for questions. I'm an open book. More than anything, you know, we'll essentially change your life. And you'll change someone's life and they'll change your life. It's kind of the whole equally advantageous triangle thing. A project I'm working on right now that I'm very excited for is called One More Star. It's a nonprofit. The way the nonprofit works, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So people donate to it once as a fund, let's say $1,000, and we then divvy that money to somebody who's in need around the world. But they have to show us that they have proof of income. They also have to show us that they're part of a financial literacy course of some sort, and they have to show us a budget. Once they pay it back into the fund, then they are elected to be able to vote for another person. So they can come to you and say, hey, you can loan now. You know, I'm going to back you up because I have good standing here. Yeah. So now he lends, right? And then once that person pays back in full with the same criteria, you know, then them two as a pod get to nominate a third person. And now they also represented back. Wow. So it creates a social earning and a social credit type score where you're helping each other become more financially stable and teaching each other and having the hard conversations around money and how to better manage your money. So that's a project that I'm really excited for. And it's called One More Star because of the story of the little boy who's throwing the starfish into the water. Have you seen it? Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't.
So the story goes, there's the beach is drying out. you know. A very special person told me this story, and it's, you know, it'll probably last with me for a lifetime. And as the beach was drying out, these starfish are all exposed under the sun, so they're drying out. This kid's hurling them, you know, one at a time into the water, and this old man comes up to him. You know, as we get older, we kind of become more senile, and we, you know, things happen to us. You know, life happens. As the old man comes up to the kid, he says, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Throwing stars into the water." You know, he's like, "There's too many. What you're doing doesn't matter." You know, and the kid goes, "It does to this one," and throws it. You know, and that kind of created an ethos for me that was very special. You know, man, that almost makes me want to tear up.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. The ethos of one more. You know, one more time, one more person, one more thing. The ethos of one more, you know. I
love that.
Help one more person, do one more thing.
Yeah,
know?
I love that. That story reminds me of the movie Hacksaw Ridge, based on the book and based on the story of that one soldier that said the same thing. One more, just help me get one more.
Up the cliff. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
I remember that.
Help me
Yeah,
get one more. And I feel like in a lot of ways, you know, you're that boy and you're that soldier where you're just saying, hey, let me get one more.
I was answering a message today at 4 a.m. Someone left me, you know, and I just got a call right now that I have to call back that I know is someone that is needing an outsourced professional. I work 24/7. I know that if I get on that call or if I text back, I'm feeding one more family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I'm so glad that I can have you on the podcast just so that we can share this kind of mentality, which is pretty rare in today's day, with as many people that can hear it, and hopefully we can get more people like you inspired to take action.
Call me. You know, my handle is Reef Colman, REEF, like the coral reef, Colman, like the camping gear without the E. My Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, every handle is the same. I actually, when a new platform comes out, I grab the handle immediately and just sit on it. You know, I'm like, got it. Just so I have my name. But anybody can DM me anytime, reach out, be more than happy. Reference you, obviously, so I know where the conversation's coming from. And I would love to chat with people. I love meeting humans. I love meeting other sapiens, you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. You're a cool sapien. Thanks for having me on. You know?
Thank you.